Welcome to our Foundations of Interpersonal Neurobiology webinar. We're very excited to have you all with us this evening, and excited to spend a little time together to share some information about this wonderful program. And first of all, introduce you to Alissa Bagan. She is one of the instructors in the program and is going to be spending the evening with us as well, here to tell you a little bit more about the field and answer a lot of your questions.
Good to be here.
Thanks. Alissa, you're first on the screen. Do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. My name is Alissa Bagan. I'm a licensed, I'm a therapist, a mental health therapist. I'm licensed in both in Oregon and in Washington. I've been practicing seeing patients and clients for 11 years now, and fell in love with interpersonal neurobiology in grad school. I guess that would have been in 2007. So I've been thinking about these ideas, and I'm just so pleased to be teaching at PCC. So,
well, we are delighted to have you. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And some of you have already been in touch with me. My name is Amy Evans. I am one of the coordinators and business developers at Portland Community College. We have a very special department there, the Institute for Health Professionals, and we get to create all kinds of wonderful professional development and entry-level programs to support the community, both locally and in a quite wider spectrum throughout North America. And for some of our programs, we're the only ones available and have created some of these opportunities. And so we actually have participants from around the world for a few of our programs. I have worked in community health education and workforce development for many years, was also a licensed massage therapist, and have really a great passion for healthcare at all levels, and I'm thrilled to be able to support people in expanding their work and development through programs like the Interpersonal Neurobiology program. So our first slide here is sharing a little bit with you about what is interpersonal neurobiology. And Alissa, our expert here tonight, is going to share some more about that. So thank you.
Sure. Yeah. And you all may come from different backgrounds of what interpersonal neurobiology is. So I'll just sort of give a foundational kind of framework here. So interpersonal neurobiology is interdisciplinary. It's a consilient approach that bridges findings from lots of different sciences, far-ranging from linguistics to mathematics to medicine, psychology, of course, neuroscience. So it really provides us with a sort of meta framework that draws from these sciences, the findings from these sciences, to provide even more depth about how the brain, the mind, and relationships all are bidirectional and dynamic and impact each other. IPNB is holistic in that one of the foundations of it is, of course, that the mind and the body are not separate but are connected, and that's a foundation of IPNB. But then IPNB takes it farther and is unique in the model in that it asserts that, again, there's this dynamic relationship between mind, brain, and relationship with ourselves, and relationship interpersonally too, and that those three can't really be understood separately. And this is all, of course, in the service of promoting health and well-being. IPNB is empirically based. So the findings are based on empirical research, and yet the research also illuminates that there are many ways of knowing, and so IPNB is inclusive in that way, and that we can know things not just based on observable data that we can observe, empirically with our five senses, but that there are other ways of knowing. And ultimately, really, IPNB, I think, is really impactful, even personally, to our lives, as it provides a sort of new lens that you can positively affect change in yourself and in your relationships, and how you relate to your work and your family, and to yourself. So who can benefit from interpersonal neurobiology, and where can it be applied? The quick answer is everyone, everywhere, and that maybe sounds sort of vague and maybe even Pollyanna-ish, but it really isn't, because the concepts of IPNB, are mind-brain relationships and how those impact each other. And so honestly, IPNB can be applied and benefit all of us. As you can see from the list there's a wide range of professionals who are drawn to study IPNB, from healthcare professionals, mental health therapists, spiritual counselors, writers, and the program reflects that too. Many of us educators also have a range of professions that we're in, from, like, I'm a psychotherapist and a consultant in a medical practice, but we also have a Rolfer, other educators, a medical doctor, meditation experts, organizational consultants. So yeah, it's very wide-ranging and applicable to lots of us. Really, anybody who works with other people. So the field of IPNB has both personal and professional application. Professionally, and I'm sort of speaking for myself a little bit here, but in my experience, it can be really helpful to understand the neuroscience and what's happening underneath our skin, what's happening on our insides. When we run into interpersonal difficulties, it can just be such an automatic tendency to want to distance or other the other person or other parts of ourselves. But when we understand some of what's going on in the nervous system and in the brain, and with implicit memory, and really how complex all of that, and that so much of really what's going on in there is automatic and observable, but automatic. One of the biggest benefits to me is that it has grown my compassion, both for myself, which is nice, but also for my clients. And along that same vein, has helped with burnout. Lots of therapists really have to struggle with burnout. And again, when when you're thinking about, and you can know more about the neuroscience and what's actually happening inside just very automatically, the work, at least my work with my clients and with the doctors that I consult with, becomes much more collaborative, because it's like we're all trying to wrap our minds around and understand what's happening inside at the neurobiological level that can just be very automatic. So my work has, since I started studying and applying IPNB, has just been a lot more enjoyable. And I've just found a lot more energy and compassion for my clients. So I wouldn't give that up for anything. And then also, learning some of the neuroscience also gives you professionally a little bit of a niche. It's not all of us that get to talk about neuroscience in our work. And so it gives you a little bit of a niche among your colleagues. And then one of the bullet points there says that the field of IPNB is growing and integrative. So I find that really exciting, that, every day you hear on NPR or whatever books you're reading, and that there are more and more discoveries that are positive, that are talking about, because of the power of bioplasticity and neuroplasticity, that a new paper will come out that says that the brain can, we didn't know, but the brain can rewire itself in this way, and it helps, has helped somebody to overcome some health issues or or something. So it's really exciting if you're like me and you tend to be curious about our bodies and our brains, and because the field is just constantly growing. So we get to learn more about that and then refine our theories. So that part's been personally and professionally exciting for me. So there's a professional IPNB, or interpersonal neurobiology community, GAINS, which is the Global Association for Interpersonal Neurobiology Studies. GAINS is a nonprofit whose mission is to advance the science, practice, and application of IPNB to promote health and well-being. GAINS offers webinars. I was even made aware that there are meetup groups. I'm in Portland, so there are meetup groups in Portland and also around the country. Students students are offered a half-price membership to GAINS, so that's great. Just briefly, the history of GAINS is such that in 2005, a group of educators and psychotherapists participated in the first advanced interpersonal neurobiology immersion workshop and got together from across the country by the organizer and IPNB pioneer Dan Siegel, who I'm sure you've heard of. And then soon later, the fellow organizer or fellow pioneer, Lou Cozolino. And then it grew from there, and really with the enthusiastic belief that the application of IPNB principles can ultimately change lives. And then another person to think of with the development of IPNB is Alan Shore, as he became an original shaper and theorist of IPNB. There are annual conferences that GAINS holds at UCLA. I think the next one, I'm forgetting now if it's in April or May.
It's in April.
April,
Yeah.
okay.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So usually in the spring each year.
Yeah, okay. And there are various teachers, speakers, and workshops, consultation groups, and academic texts, including the Norton series. A lot of this in the PCC program utilize the Norton series. Some of the books, if you're interested, one of the ones that I reference a lot and have some readings that I ask the students to take a look at are from Bonnie Badenoch's The Brain Savvy Therapist. Other ones are, again, by Lou Cozolino. He has a book, The Science of Human Relationships. Alan Shore, The Science of the Art of Psychotherapy. Fascinating book on the neuroevolution of emotions by Jaak Panksepp is called The Archaeology of Mind. Neuroevolutionary Origins of Mind. So those are some examples of some of the academic texts that that might be referenced in the program.
Yeah. And we are really honored to have two of our instructors. One, Deborah Pierce McCall, actually took a lot of initiative and held the vision of creating GAINS as an international organization that was connective throughout the year for all of the community, and created this as something that people could join and count on for some of their professional development. And then another one of our instructors, Dr. Mary Metter, leads in a lot of the webinars and workshops that are offered periodically through GAINS as well. So our instructors, many of them go to the conferences. They're very excited to continue spreading the knowledge and growing and learning in this field. Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to mention in this?
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
Great, thank you. All right, well, as you are probably getting the sense, the Foundations of Interpersonal Neurobiology is a pretty unique program. It is taught by experts in interpersonal neurobiology, many of whom studied and or are in regular touch with the founders of IPNB, as Alissa mentioned, Dan Siegel, Lou Cozolino, and Alan Shore. And we have 8 expert instructors right now. They range, as again, as Alissa referenced, a wide variety of professions, medical doctors to therapists, nurse practitioner, Rolfer, somebody who studied a lot in structural integration and more how this is, how some of the elements are lodged in our bodies and things, and helping us get in touch with shifting mindfulness and trauma in those regards as well. The delivery is live streamed, which we're very proud of. We've worked hard to stimulate a virtual classroom, knowing that this is a pretty difficult to access or to find a community program in this. We wanted to make it available to as many people as possible. So we've created this virtual classroom environment where for most of the program, you are meeting in a live streaming classroom with breakout groups and really get to know each other throughout the program and things. And then to allow people, from around the world to participate. But we wanted to make sure that everyone got to have some of the interpersonal and embodiment elements to that. So we also have a 4-day in-person intensive here in Portland, Oregon. I'll speak more about that a little bit later. Our program is open to a wide variety of students and professionals. We've had healthcare providers, educators, law enforcement officers, lawyers, managers, and business leaders. A wide range of people participate and learn how to apply this amazing field to their work, and also, as Alissa mentioned, to their personal lives as well. So broad applications. Well, I'll talk a little bit more about that. Yes. So the details here. This is a 6-month-long program. We've designed it as a cohort so that you can learn and grow with each other. In educational terms, 6 months translates to 2 terms. So you will have 2 different programs that you're registered for, but they'll all feed that 6-month certificate program. As I mentioned, it is a hybrid program with the virtual online classroom. The platform that we use for that is Zoom, so you're getting a little bit of practice with that right now. Zoom has a lot more potential than what we are utilizing this evening. So during the classroom, the instructors will work with you. As I mentioned, there's breakout groups, there's polling features, there's a lot more so that you can have some more interactivity throughout each individual session with everyone. And we know that people's lives get busy and unexpected things happen. So if you are not able to attend a live session or need to be late to one, we do record all of them, and those recordings are available for you afterwards. Some people love them because they get to review some of the concepts, or they wanted to hear how it was explained in additional time, and others need to catch up by watching that the first time. So always open to working with people on that. Those live stream classes are held on Tuesday evenings. They always start at 5:30 p.m. and they vary between 2 to 3 hours in length, depending on the topic and the course and what is being covered that particular evening. So we'll provide you with a detailed schedule of that after you register. And then, as I mentioned, there's the one in-person intensive, so 4 days here in Portland. We tend to utilize a flipped curriculum. We know that with adult learners, that chance to work with the material and integrate it and make it come alive to you is much more important. You can read some things on your own. So we invite you to do so. Most of the instructors will give you some reading assignments or videos to watch or articles, things to explore before you come to class, so that you're using that classroom time to really dive into it and tear it apart and integrate it and apply it in the unique ways that are helpful to you. You get to work with the other students in there and just really start to own a lot of these concepts and work with them. Over the course of the 6 months, you will be earning 125 CEU hours. So that's quite a bit for many professionals. That is far more than they need for some of their recertification and things. And some people don't need CEUs at all. They're just taking this to learn and grow in their own ways. But because we're mindful that many professionals do require some ethics, we've woven that into this, and that meets the requirements for many professionals out there. We have a little overview of the program. It does consist of 7 classes or modules. Each one has different hours and things, but you start off with the introduction to IPNB, really enthusiastic introduction to a lot of the key concepts and terms and what is IPNB. So you get to explore that in the classroom through the intro. This is followed by the ethics from an IPNB perspective. The science of IPNB is the 3rd class in the series that is co-taught by a physician and a therapist. And that class is the first one that will be part of what gets brought into the in-person weekend. So for these hybridized classes, the vast majority of the lecture and preparatory process is delivered through the live streaming Zoom platform. But there are elements, like in this class, you get to dissect a brain, and we could simulate that. There's certainly software out there that 3D imaging and everything, but I think that hands-on experience guided by an expert has such value that that is part of that 4-day in-person intensive. The second term, for the most part, how we broke it out there, begins with Alissa's class, the IPNB of Attachment and Trauma. Then you'll cover difference and diversity, exploring how we perceive the world, what's going on neurophysiologically as we register difference, often first on that unconscious level before we even have the cognitive thoughts around some of that, and how we can work to reprogram some of that. As you learn, neuroplasticity is tremendous throughout this program, and teaching people as they're relating and how they work with how we're wired and who we are as people, relational and with mindful practices and things. The 6th class in the series is Embodied Relational Mindfulness. As in the name, you're working with some of the embodiment practices. You're understanding how things get registered and programmed within our bodies, and that is taught by the Rolfer LMT, somebody who does this kind of work and helps people get into and shift what's stored in their soft tissue on a daily basis and things. A lot of trauma work can be tied and lodged in the body as well, so that gets covered in that class. And the final course is exclusively back online. As you can see, those last 4 were all part of that in-person weekend as well. But the final course is Connection and Community. So this is where you get to reflect on everything that you've learned and explore how you're going to apply this now, where you may envision taking some of this work in the future, and really looking and diving into that a little bit. The in-person weekend is this year scheduled for July 18th to the 21st. It is 4 days here in Portland, Oregon. There's 6 to 8 hours of class each day. Most days it's 6, and we have one longer day. And you'll get to cover those 4 classes that you saw: the science of IPNB, difference and diversity, embodied relational mindfulness, and attachment and trauma. Most of the days are held at the Climb Center, which is PCC Center, Portland Community College Center, pretty centrally located in Portland, Oregon. For those of you familiar with Portland, we're 1 block north of the OMSI, the local science museum. So lots of options for public transportation to reach us. And it's a center, so it's one building with plenty of parking and really accessible for a lot of people there. And we love to get together. We know that people have been studying hard and learning and exploring things, and we want to give you just some enjoyment social time as well. So we do have an optional dinner typically on Saturday evening with the faculty and students and sometimes former graduates from the program. You get to connect and just relax. We also have a fun activity for you that evening that many people enjoy. So the investment, from a time perspective, this is a 6-month program, as I mentioned. So it's 23 weeks of live weekly sessions. In between each session, there's ways to stay in touch with each other. In addition to the live streaming platform of Zoom, we have a robust learning platform. We utilize Brightspace's Desire to Learn, so you can upload your assignments, you can access a lot of the reading material and articles and videos. The instructors often post their PowerPoints so that you have access to all of that material. And there's online discussion boards. So throughout the week, you'll be reflecting and sharing and working with the other students and the instructors to explore a little bit of the topics that are being covered in between those weeks to keep this active and again, help you integrate and dive more deeply into the topics that you're studying. All of that does take a little bit of time. So we follow the typical college recommendation and encourage people to plan on 1 to 3 hours of study and prep time, whether you're reading or working for those discussion boards and other assignments and things. 1 to 3 hours for every hour of class time. So many people are looking for 6 to 12 hours a week of investment in this. Some do it with less, some really get excited about the topics and chase a lot of rabbit holes into all the different areas. So you can do that during the program or save some of that additional exploration for afterwards. But it is a commitment of time, and just wanted people to think about how to carve out a little bit of that. I mentioned the online discussion boards, and then of course the in-person intensive during the second term of the program. And then the investment tuition-wise is $29.50 for the entire program. I have worked with the school to create some special payment plan options, so it allows you to divide the payments out over the 6 months of the program. Many people find that helpful. It's interest-free, so it's easy to take advantage of there. Of course, you can also pay up front, or the college has a more traditional plan that allows you to divide the payments over 3 different payments during that first term of the program. The tuition is associated with, assigned generally at the beginning of the program, and that's why we have the 6-month option. This is a non-credit program, so it is not available, or students cannot utilize federal student aid for this, but we accept all other kinds of scholarships. I've had AmeriCorps and Vista stipends, veterans, any other forms of payment and support, employment. Several employers incentivize people to go back to school or support their continued education and professional development. So we certainly can work with all of those options if people need. And many people just pay for it out of the pocket because they're really excited to learn this. We worked hard to keep it as affordable as possible. The only other fees in addition to that tuition are a $20 a term technology fee, so that supports your accessing the Desire to Learn and Zoom platforms, as well as a student help desk that is staffed evenings, weekends, every day of the week that the college is open. So excepting holidays, you can get some support if you upgrade your system or you find yourself, your browser's changed and things look differently. We have experts there to help guide you and answer your questions on all of that. I would have used them tonight as well if I had realized that things had shifted on me. So they're great, great resource there. And then there are a few books. I know a couple instructors may be revising, but currently we have 5 books associated with the program, and they're fairly affordable. You're welcome to buy them wherever you find. So if you want used or to order them all up front or space them out, all of those options are available for you. You do not have to purchase them through our bookstore or anything like that. For the next steps for the program, registration opens on March 6th for this program. So encourage people that are interested to go ahead and complete their PCC registration anytime between now and then, and that way you'll be all ready to enroll in the program. You just need to get your PCC student ID, and we'll talk about that a little more on the next slide here. There's the date. So spring term registration opens March 6th. The whole program starts on on April 2nd is the first class. And the week before then, I offer a highly recommended student orientation. So this is where you'll get to meet everyone else in the cohort, just more relaxed time together, looking at, even if we do have some local or people within driving distance that want to come, we'll see who ends up registering, but I may be able to facilitate having some of that in person, and then some video conferencing for those that can't make that. So we'll assess that closer to the time. But either way, I'll share with you some more about the technology, walk you through and introduce you to the different areas where you can find the syllabus, what to expect each week, how to use the discussion boards, how to use Zoom, all of that stuff. So give you a good grounding in some of what you'll be utilizing over the next 6 months. We do have a detailed timeline for what the class schedule will be, so you know which days are 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and 3 hours for those. And certainly lots of support throughout the whole program there. There is one large break in June, kind of in between our terms. So we've built in a few days off there for you as well. And to register, again, you need to first get your student ID. So you simply go to pcc.edu/NC. NC is for non-credit. Once you open that, you'll pick Apply Now. And then the screen will let you select whether you're entering a credit class or a non-credit class. Encourage you to pick the non-credit there. It will save you some steps in that student ID acquisition process there. So just go through that process. It's pretty basic, like with any school. And just know that they will take 3 to 5 days to send you your PCC ID. It should be sent to your personal email, but it may be spammed, checking your spam filter and everything there. So there is a manual part to that process as we work really hard to preserve your identities and things. So that is why it takes a little bit of time, and just look for that. Once you have your PCC ID, you can register and pay online or call and get some support. So I'll have all of that information available if you guys have any questions about that. The course registration number that we have that you would register under is CRN 26959. And again, you would be able to start registering on March 6th for that. If you are an international student, the online system is pretty particular around wanting a zip code, which I know has caused a challenge for a few online students. So if you fall in that category and have a challenge with that, reach out to me and I'll help you with a backdoor method there. We do have a limited number of slots in this program. We do work to keep the cohort manageable so that everyone gets some of that time to share and explore and Q&A with the instructors and each other. So be sure to make your decision early to make sure you get your slot in there. Now I'd love to open it up to any questions that you may have. And I am going to see if I can find the chat menu or the chat box on here, which I'd had trouble seeing before. So the video may not be quite as helpful or uniform here, but there we go. I will add a couple of program requirements. Obviously, you need to have good online access to participate in the program. And we do not presently require a webcam, but it certainly is nice. In the Zoom platform, you'll be able to see each other. There's a panel where you could now open and see everyone, but certainly in the classroom itself, it's really nice. It is interpersonal, so we want to make sure that people have a chance to enjoy that added visual. So we encourage you to have a webcam if possible, and we do require you to have some kind of a headset and microphone just to help minimize the background noise that even can be coming from outside and things. So thank you. Thank you, Nicole. I'm so glad this was helpful for you. How many participants are there on average is one of the questions. I'd say on average we have 12 to 20 participants in this program. So we've been slowly building it up. So I'm expecting that number to grow, but we will cap it between 20 and 30 students. Thanks. Yes, the classes are on Pacific time. We've definitely had people participate in the East Coast before, and sometimes they choose to have some later nights, or they actually really like that time slot because it lets them get their kids to bed and kind of settled in, and then they can dive into this work. Other times they participate for the first couple of hours and then may catch the second or the final hour through the recording the next day. As long as people keep the instructors informed around some of those intentions, they can work to support you in some of those needs. And it's not been a problem before. So, all right. Well, certainly if you end up with some additional questions, then you can always email me those. I see a question here. What is the date the next cohort will start after this one? We offer this program once a year. We have not finalized the dates for the 2020 program, but I would expect that to start in the winter or spring terms again. All right, well, please do reach out to me if you have other questions. We will be sharing this recording with everyone, so if you missed the first portion of it, we'll email that out in the next few days to everyone who registered for the webinar. Really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us this evening, and yes, many, many thanks to Alissa for sharing her time and expertise with everyone.
It's a pleasure. Yep. Yeah, thanks everybody. Hope to see you.
Yes, we'd love to see you.
Yeah.
Join us. Thanks.